Hey, this is Pam Gallagher. Today is October 18th, 2019, and welcome to the Midwest School of Astrology. And thank all of you so much for coming. We have a great turnout, the guys online, just so that you know. We have lots of people here. We have friends that go way, way back that I've known a long, long time, some that are newer friends. We have a lot of graduates of the school. We have a lot of clients, and we just have a lot of people that I know. So I'm thrilled, just thrilled. So what we're going to talk about tonight, and of course, here's the book cover, Becoming Your Sun Sign. I would probably move it over if I knew how. Let's see if I can stretch it out. Let me tell you, there's a lot of technology that goes into this craziness. So the idea of tonight, and of course it was Mindy's idea. It was not mine. Everybody can gravitate to a little Taurus back in there. She's like getting me organized and running my schedule, thank God, because I would have thought about it and I wouldn't have done it. So as before we close, I will show you the chart of when the books came in, and I'll share that story with you because it was a fun story. But let me share with you about 15 years ago, about 2004, 2005, I started teaching again. Many of you know I started astrology in September of 1969. Now do your math, people. That was 50 years ago. Hey, Trace. That was 50 years ago this month. Imagine that. It's a long time ago, people. That makes me old. I mean, although I don't feel any older, but my body thinks so. It gets tired. But other than that, and I will tell you that when I started on the journey of astrology, I came out of a Southern Baptist background. I grew up in a upper middle class community. Well, many of you here in Cincinnati know Marymount. We lived on the right side out on Marymount Bluff. I didn't know any different, but everybody said to me, "Oh, where do you live?" Oh, well, it didn't mean anything to me. We live in a nice house on a nice street. I never cared. I never cared. I was never impressed. I still don't. But anyway, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate in my childhood, and I was smart, and I did well in school. And so when I was chosen to do the new math, one of 50 students, I said, "Oh, you gotta be kidding. I don't want to do math." And my mother said, "Oh, you want to cheerlead? Oh, you want to be president of Latin Club? Then you'll do the math." "Yes, ma'am." So I was going to blow off the math, special, and that didn't work. So I did the new math. Now, the reason that's significant is because here I was in high school and doing something that was really very sophisticated and cutting edge, which was they gave us our problems. We had to solve them. We got no theorems. We got no rules, I can't even think the word, postulates and all that good stuff. All you guys don't even remember them, most of you. That and algebra and all that stuff that you learned rules, and that's how you solved formulas. Well, we didn't do any of that. They gave us problems, and we had to show all of our work. And so they had notebooks. We had to show it. Well, for some reason, I had an aptitude for that because I was one of the top 50 in the United States that were picked, and why, I had no idea. But what it taught me was high logic at a very young age, and that equations were supposed to equalize, and that in our universe, things have balance. Well, that's right down my alley today, of course, still. But what happened was I was trained in very high logic at a very early age by some synchronicity. I won't say accident because I don't believe in accidents. So, but what that did was start me on a path very early. And so the Southern Baptist, if there's anybody here from there, I apologize, but I doubt it. It is. I guess if you're still in that theme, you're probably not here. But however, what I wanted was a little deeper understanding. Why doesn't the equation? So I went looking for what we were missing. Not that what they taught me was bad or wrong, and I do believe religion is very important and it's part of community. But I believe your relationship with God is individual. And so that's my gig. So I went on and I went into psychology and I did all these wonderful things. And I had been accepted into a PhD program in psychology when I met somebody when my children were very small doing children's theater. And I went into my philosophy of why are we here and what is this for? And it doesn't make any sense. And she said to me, Pam, I'm taking a class I think you should take. And I said, what's that? And she said, astrology. And I said, are you out of your mind? How did you astrology? Because, that didn't fit into anything that I'd learned. And she challenged me and said, bring me your birth data. And so then she began to talk to me about my chart and my soul journey and why I was here. Now, many of you have been to me and known when you left that you were a little shocked of the insight that the chart gave. And everybody says, how did you know that? And I'm like, I read the chart, my job, I read the chart, not that I'm that intuitive or that perceptive. There's your roadmap. There's your spiritual journey. It has taken me a long, long time to settle into that. And I walked away from astrology on many occasions, I'll be very honest, because I went off. After I was divorced, I went to the corporate world. I became the International Director of Sales and Marketing for Encyclopedia Britannica. It was a big deal. I moved to Chicago. I lived on Michigan Avenue, And when the internet came in and Britannica went out, the people at the top went out first. They always throw the people at the top out first. So it collapsed, and I came back to Cincinnati. Well, when I did, people that I had done charts for in the 70s started to call me and say, would you do my chart? I said, no, I ain't going there. Except God has a way of equalizing your playing field. And so I needed the money. I'd taken a huge cut in pay to come from Chicago back to Cincinnati and do a job half the size. And I had a family and I'd made a new lifestyle. And as you know, it costs money to live. So I said, okay, I will. And then they said, will you teach? And I said, I'm not teaching. I'm not teaching. I'm not doing that because I would have to teach you math. And I don't want to teach you math. Not only that, I don't think I can because the way I think you're looking for rules and regs and that's not my gig. They said, no, if you'll teach us, we'll use the computer. I said, well, in that case, I'll teach you. So that was in the early 90s. And so here in 97, my mother died and we lived in Madeira. And people said to me, you have a calling. You need to do this. You're nuts. You want me to give up my Gold American Express card to teach astrology? They said, yes, this is what you need to do. And I said, my deal with God was, you send them, I'll teach them. So here they are. Here I am. It's 2019. I'm still doing this. And I'm busier than I've ever been. I have bigger classes than I've ever had. And in the early 2000s, I said, I need to write a book because people don't understand that this is about growth. This is not all complex, ooey wooey. Well, you've got this gift and that fate. And I'm like, hey, man, this is science. This is math, give us a program. So I thought, I'm going to write a book, a simple book, but I wanted to write it for the public. I wanted to write it for people to understand. If you're awake enough to know that you're looking for your purpose, then I can help. But I didn't want it to be complex, and I didn't want it to be something that overwhelmed people so they put it down and wouldn't read it. So if you come back and say to me, well, I couldn't read it, you just hit me. So, crush me. So don't do it. That's not true. Don't lie, just to be honest. But I don't like people that lie. So just give it, tell it like it is. But anyway, that was the goal. So then I began, and I went to Kentucky, and a friend of mine had a house down there, and nobody was in it. So I went down there for 2 weeks, and there I was with my computer all by myself. There aren't even good restaurants in Somerset, outside of Somerset, Kentucky, and Russell, Kentucky. So I'm like, I couldn't even go, I couldn't even entertain myself by going out to dinner and wasting my time. I couldn't get that done. So I'm like, here I am, me and this computer and this stupid outline. So I started writing, and for 2 weeks I wrote, and I wrote as hard as I could. Well, of course, when you get quiet and you sit still and you have good intent, you'll be surprised what comes through, how much clarity you have. How often do we do that? I have done that about 3 times since 2004. Each time when I got done, I'm like, I'm finished with this. And I have to tell you, about 3 years ago, I really did lay it down. I said, and I had told people all along, I am writing this book, but I had always named it, You Are Not Your Sun Sign, ... You're working on it. Now, many of you, I may have said that to along the way over the path, but somebody said to me, that's negative. You can't use that. That's got a knot in it. In NLP language, that's really a faux pas. So I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to do that. So, but I couldn't find a title. And I'm like, how can you write a book that doesn't have a title? So I've struggled and I've made lists and I've had dreams and I've tried words and I've sat with it, but still nothing. So I have to tell you, last fall, I really was struggling this and we were making word lists. And somebody said to me, I said, well, I want people to become their sunshine. She said, then why don't you use the word becoming? Oh, hadn't tried that one. I'd been circling those wagons for months, for 2 years. Once I figured out what the title was and I could sit with it, and I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be. Now, I have to tell you, I still wasn't going to do it. And I'll share with these few people, that's a joke, but there are people online too. But back last September, I developed a little tiny knot on my nose. And it looked like a little wart. It wasn't a big deal, you know. I mean, I'm vain, but I'm not that vain. But one of my clients is a derm specialist. And I said to her, look at this. And she said, oh, why don't you wait a few months and see? I said, I've been waiting for a few months. It hasn't gone away. But when you push on it, it has a little pink ring on it. I've never seen anything like that. So what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to do a biopsy. She said, okay. She did a biopsy. She called me 3 days later. She said, Pam, it's basal cell cancer. Well, now, you've all had illnesses and had diagnoses that shook your world from one time to another. Well, that chilled me to the bone. First of all, smack dab in your face. Second of all, I had no idea. Third of all, I knew nothing about basal cell cancer. Zip. I hadn't known anybody that had it. So I said, okay. She said, oh, you're going to send you to this doctor, and then they're going to send you to a plastic surgeon. And then she said to Mindy, who went with me, your mother doesn't get it, but this is a big deal. I'm like, it's just a tiny spot. Well, in December, they took a hunk out of my forehead this big, ran nerves and blood down, and this is all forehead, people. They took the hole into my nose. Now, being who I am, a little crazy, I said, what smack dab in my face that I'm not looking at? Has anybody ever read Louise Hay's book, you know, what's the matter, Heal Yourself, or What's the Matter, Who's the Matter with Me, which was a big unity book. And I'm like, what's right in my face that I'm not, you know, because this is smack dab on the end of my nose, right? This is no joke. And it hit me. It's that damn book. Oh, it's that book, and I never finished it. Oh, now I'm paying the price. So in January, when I came back from surgery, and I had students online, and I said, listen, people, listen to your inner voice and pay attention. This is no joke, man. You too can have 3 surgeries and lose the whole end of your face. Not fun. So, and it looks pretty good, by the way. I've had 3 surgeries. The third one was plastic surgery to smooth out the bubble because they bubbled it. It was pretty ugly. I would have skipped it, but they said the insurance was going to pay for it. And I said, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't care. So in January, I said to them, I have to do this book. And one of the guys online said, you know, that's what my degree's in. That's what I do. Give it to me and we'll get it published. I said, people have said that before. And then they're like, oh, this is a lot of work. You know, he said, no, send it to me. I said, are you serious? We did a chart for that. Because everybody, and when you know astrology, there are charts called event charts. And it snaps the moment. So, of course, being an astrology class, we had to catch the, chart of the moment and say, okay, well, let's see. And this chart was just like just phenomenal. I mean, the synchronicity, the perfectness. And I'm like, I get goosebumps when that stuff happens. Like, this is scary, woo-hoo. So I said to him, I'm sending it tomorrow. I'd said that before, but I never did it. So the next day, Mindy and I emailed the book to him. He came back in a few weeks. He said, I've gone through edits. He said, Pam, this is almost done. I said, I know. But it's the finishing, it's the final checks. It's getting it in the right order. It's getting the right table of contents. It's deciding on a. Huh? Oh, yeah, I don't have any fixed. So, boat missed me. So, I have Mindy. I have Mindy's fixed. Thank you, God. Mindy's fixed. So he said to me, okay, we're doing this. You got to have a cover. I said, well, I've started on a cover, and I had the sun and the moon, and I kind of had the gold and the blue, because that's the gold sun and blue's the moon, and that wasn't too hard. So he said, got a person that I'm working with at HUNA, and this is what she's getting her master's in. I said, send it to her. And I said, I'll pay her. He said, well, she wants to also barter. She'll do some, if you'll do her charts and stuff, she'll do. So we worked it out. But I was able to give it to them. And then they sent it back and said, what do you think about this? And then I could edit or make comments on what they'd fixed. Thank you, God. Because I was, this thing was like worse than a headache. So I'm like, oh. So they kept sending it back and I was able to fix it. That was 11 months ago. And today, I don't even have a copy up here, but today we have the book, Becoming Your Sun Sign, The Journey from Your Moon to Your Sun. And and Mindy's like, don't forget me, because I have to tell you, this last summer, when it came to, and Tom's online, by the way, Tom is the one that, here you go, thank you. But you guys all know it. They all know it anyway, but Tom is online and he's the one that said, give it to me, we'll do it. And Liza is online tonight, and she is our designer. Liza's right there online. There's Tom. Give him a hand. They can hear you on this microphone. That's for you guys. Both of you did. Both of you did. Whoop, tears, I can feel it coming. So there was so much put into this. And when it got to this last summer, and they're saying, what do you want? And I'm like, and Mindy's like, look, we're going to sit down. She marked off a whole week. And she and I started it. I said, I can't read this book one more time. But we did. Mindy's like, I can't either. So we read it from the back forward. Because then you were reading it, not, in its normal content, but out of context. So that if the sentences were in the wrong place or we didn't follow the right format, we could see it. She tied me to the desk for an entire week, and then she did the rest of it, because I'm telling you, it wasn't me. So, but she worked with Tom and she worked with Liza.
Yay, Mindy.
Yes, Mindy. Yay, Mindy. Because let me tell you, we would not have a book. We would not. Because right at the very end, I would have said, no more. I'm done. But yeah, Liza says, yay, Mindy. Yeah, they worked great together. And Liza and Mindy decided on the posters and the banner, and and they laid them all out. But even when they sent us, now Liza had the software to put it together to send it to the publisher, right? And they said, you'd think, oh, it's automatic, right? Oh no, you got to pay $300 for one hard copy to see what it looks like. I mean, you'd think, oh, they're just going to send it. First, you pay them several $1,000s. Then they charge you $300 to get the book, but you don't dare not do it. Well, sure enough, there were a couple of errors in it, but that we missed. They're always, and you'll find some too, probably. I hope not, but you will. But dear God, it's been edited a lot. I'll tell you that. When you find them, they won't be blatant anyway. There may be one in there, and you're welcome to send us a note so that when we do another edition of it, we'll fix it. But Liza spotted it and said, "Ooh, the pages are too high, and the numbers are in the wrong place, and they don't have it centered on the page correctly." That's the kind of stuff she saw, and the table of contents weren't, and spaced properly. Mindy and I looked at each other and said, really? No. And Liza and Tom are saying, well, you need this. Tom laid out the back of the book, and Tom's written on the back of the book. And so it's been a collaboration, that's the point. And it's actually been a fun journey. I have to tell you, I wasn't very nice in the middle of the summer when they, were hounding me to finish this damn thing. But, I did it. So I'm very proud of a lot of people. The point of this book, and I wrote it for the world. I did not write this for me. People are like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I said, I didn't write it for me. I wrote it for everybody else. And so I hope that when you read it, if it just opens up your mind a little bit, or you want to share one, somebody that's starting to ask questions, you can say to them, read this book. Maybe this will answer some questions for you. So that was the purpose and the drive for me to do the book. So yeah, Tom's back. He must have gotten knocked out. We lose you, Tom? We were talking about you, and maybe you didn't hear it. You have to sit and listen to the recording. I said nice things. He'll answer us now. You'll see him. This is the way we teach. I talk to the people in house, talk to the ones online, and then I couldn't type in the chat for some reason, so I came out and came back in so we could say something. We want to say something to the people? Thanks for the applause. He did a great job. If Tom hadn't stepped up and said, send me that thing, we'll get it done. I wouldn't have done it. So I'm grateful. I've checked it off my bucket list. It was a big thing in my life, and now my nose can heal and I can be fine. He said, thanks, couldn't have done it without Liza and Mindy, such a team. They did. They did a great job. I did the nut. You'll recognize my philosophy in my writing, but to know that they cleaned it up. So I thank all of you for buying the book, and I hope that as you read it and somebody comes to mind, you'll share one. You'll buy one and give it to somebody that you think will make a difference to. The book will sell. It's on Amazon. It's going to be on ebook. It's I've got some big speakers out there that are going to so I'm not worried about that. What I want to do is put it in the hands. If you know somebody that it might open their door, change their life, that's the person I want you to give it to. So then you buy another one and give it to them. Hang on to your own because you'll all have I've signed those and dated them. And I spent a lot of time on it. So don't give yours away. Okay. Some other people came in. We will be signing. There is wine. You guys missed it. Sorry, I don't have any wine. We have cheesecakes. We have shrimp. We have salami. We have all kinds of yummy food. So go have a treat because you can't have ours. And Sharon's on. Sharon is a student. She said, yes, Sharon, you can. It is on Amazon. And if anybody orders it on Amazon, do me a favor and write a review. Because we need some. Most of you all have bought them for much, which I appreciate because there's a big money difference. But there'll be a lot of them that come through, that come through Amazon. And so I'm hoping that people will write a review on that because people do read them. Hopefully, people that are just curious. Oh, by the way, I'll tell you as we're finishing. We are in the process of doing something that I've always said I'd do, another one of those things and didn't do. We are in the process of preparing a 12-week canned intro to astrology. We're going to call it Astrology Foundations for people that don't have 3 years and 500 hours to devote, but that would like to have a basic understanding of the planets, the signs, the houses, and the charts. And so over the next 12 weeks, we will be recording, preparing, and I have a few of my students that are actually going to sit in house, Susan Monk being one, and so that we have people to teach the way I do. We'll change their names because I cannot use our regular classes because that's very personal proprietary information. But they've agreed to use their charts. We're going to change their name, so that they still can comment. So you'll still get examples of each thing I teach, and that's the key.
Was that 12 weeks?
Yes.
Physical class.
Yes.
Physical and online. So
there'll be like 6 to 8 people in house. That's what we're doing.
As to do the programming.
No, they're not programming. They're just sitting.
No, what I mean.
Huh? It is intense on top of what I'm already doing, but we're doing it. We are doing it because as the people get the book, they say to me, I would like to learn something about, I don't know that I want to do 3 years, but I'd like to learn some astrology. So we're going to, and you can do it at home in your own time, and the handouts will come folded into it.
So is it
we're going to sell it online, but you will download it as an in-home teaching program that you can study off your own computer at your own time and pace and you'll have the handouts. We're going to call it Astrology Fundamentals. That's what we're going to call it. We'll do level 1 and level 2. Level 1 will have like 2 courses to it. It's like 12 hours altogether, but broken up into small modules with handouts. So you can do it at your own pace, but if that's something you want to do, oh, that was another one of those. Sometimes things come out of my mouth, and Mindy's like, "Well, that's what you called it, so that's what I called it." I said, "Okay." We were just talking about what we should be doing, and so that was my language, so that's what she used. And watch what you tell her. She'll be marketing it before I know it. So thanks for coming. Go get some wine. You guys, thank you for being online. We've recorded this. I don't think there's anything